If you thought you'd like to know a little bit about what it's like to serve as a figure model, you've come to the right place. I'm Rob Schendel, and I've been a figure model for several decades, more than I'd like to admit. This is the place where I tell you about my experiences, what I've done, tell you about my current assignments, and give you tips of the trade. Welcome to the Figure Model Podcast. This is episode number 7, and as I said, I'm Rob Schendel. Whenever I discuss figure modeling, it's typically I'm talking about modeling for a class. 99% of all my modeling endeavors have been from a classroom of students. Now on occasion, I have been contracted by an artist or a photographer to model on an individual basis with just that other person there, but that's very rare. So just assume I am speaking of modeling in front of a bunch of people in a class. Or I'm modeling for an open drawing session where there's not really instruction and a bunch of adults some evening gather together for the purpose of sketching. Now, what could be more casual than to be lounging around totally naked in front of a group of people just lollygagging around there? Well, you got to remember, you are working, this is a professional situation. And the very important thing to do, especially when you're dealing with college students. Now, it's safe to assume that everybody in the room, perhaps except for the instructor and yourself, is single. But this is not a singles bar atmosphere. No way at all. You have to respect a distance. Now, you've got to make sure that there's no interaction that wouldn't be considered professional when you're modeling for a class. You do not speak to the students. You answer questions, sure. You don't be rude, but you just as briefly as possible, because you want to maintain that distance. It's like you gotta almost feel that you're on this platform, or there's this. You got to put a barrier, put a moat there, put a wall there, and do what you have to do. Don't interact. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to be out at lunchtime and see somebody else in the cafeteria or something who recognizes you from the class, and they'll say to me, "Hi, Rob," and I'll say, "Well, hello," but that's about it. There's no way that you can use this as an opportunity to match, pick up. That's not what you're there for. And if it's known that that's what you think you're there for, you'll never be there again. And rightly so. This is education in its purest form. You are there to serve. You have a purpose. And that purpose is to the student's benefit. And that student has a goal. And that goal isn't to meet up with you. And that's not only when, I'm not only speaking about when I'm on the platform or when you're on the modeling platform. I'm in the halls, in the cafeteria, in front of the school, down the block from the school. Just nod, say hi, and go about your business. This kind of reminds me of the funniest thing that I can think of that's happened to me because of modeling, because of my career in modeling, where I was modeling, pretty full schedule of modeling at the university. And when the weekend came, I took a date to see a play that the university's theater department was putting on. And lo and behold, wouldn't there be just a couple seats down from us, a young woman who was in one of the classes who had to wave and say and scream and tell me how much she enjoyed my nude modeling in their art class that week. Of course, that was the first my date had heard about it. Oh well, should have mentioned something earlier, I suppose. Well, that's about all I had planned to say today about figure modeling. I do have one big favor to ask of you. If you happen to get this podcast, if you discover this podcast through iTunes, please do me a favor. Click subscribe. Once you've subscribed, please go back into iTunes, find the podcast again, rate it, and make a comment about it. The more activity such as that the podcast gets, the more exposure. It goes up in the rankings, and then more people can find it. You'll do me a favor, and you do other figure models and art students a favor. I'll be back soon with another episode of the Figure Model Podcast. I'm Rob Shendel.